What's going on, everybody? Haunted Beard here. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I am finishing up the Final Destination series of reviews with Final Destination 5. So, let's get into it. So look, this series, in my opinion, has been going downhill since the second installment. The third one is a little bit worse. The fourth one's a little bit worse than the third. And now the fifth one. And somehow, some way, in a totally unexpected and shocking swing of events, Final Destination 5 is way better and way more entertaining than it has any right to be. This thing is quite a bit of fun.
Hey, who wants to have some fun? I do.
And what's really shocking about it is because being the fifth film in a series, and being that this film is basically, once again, the exact same thing we've now seen 5 times, it should be terrible. But somehow, it's actually quite entertaining. And I think in large part that has to do with the kills. The kills here are pretty fantastic. And I just really feel like kind of the scope of this, it just kind of feels a little bit bigger and a little bit grander, if you will. And so there's something about that kind of adds an entertaining and exciting element to this thing. So it starts off and we're introduced to our main cast of characters as they are all co-workers getting ready to go on this work trip. And they all get aboard a Greyhound bus and head out to their destination. And along the way, we get some very on-the-nose foreshadowing, just like we do in the rest of these. And they come across this bridge that they have to cross. And this is where we get our opening disaster scene. And man, this is just a pretty fantastic scene that I have a whole lot of fun with. And yeah, the CGI isn't great, but it's pretty good. It's serviceable. And again, this thing, it just kind of has this big sort of almost summer blockbuster epic feel to it that really just kind of makes it a whole lot of fun. And you really just get that kind of big scope feel here with this opening disaster scene, the entire accident and everything on the bridge. And our main character, Sam, gets a premonition that the bridge is going to give out and all hell's going to break loose. And that's exactly what happens. And the kills during the opening bridge scene are pretty great. The one chick falls off the bridge and she gets impaled on a boat down below, which is awesome. Poor David Koechner's character gets like liquefied by the hot tar and then falls off the bridge. The one girl, Olivia, falls off the bridge and actually survives the fall in the water below. But of course, a car falls down right on top of her. And then you've got Peter, who gets skewered with a bunch of rebar. And then Sam gets sliced in half with a big sheet of metal. And there's just a lot of good variety. It's bloody and gory and epic and just a whole lot of fun. And I really quite enjoy the opening sequence to Final Destination 5. And just like some of the other films, after this opening disaster scene, we get a scene at the police station where there's a police interview, and they are interviewing Sam and trying to figure out how in the world could he have possibly known about this, and you know, the premonition, and of course they suspect him as somehow being involved and stuff like that. Then the following scene, which we've seen in just about all these as well, you get another memorial scene where they're all there mourning the loss of all their friends and co-workers and everything like that. And one of my main complaints about the Final Destination series has to do with the tone of the movies. I feel like the movies that don't work take themselves too seriously, and the ones that do work a little bit better tend to have a little bit more of a self-aware type humor to them. And Final Destination 5, I feel like, has a little bit more of that self-aware sense of humor. And I don't feel like any of these 5 really quite get to the level of humor and comedy that this series deserves or should get to, but Final Destination 5 does a better job than the others. And the film starts going for jokes right here in this memorial scene, and I think it works pretty good.
Isaac Palmer.
Did you just say my name? That's so funny.
Another thing that Final Destination 5 does that I thought was a good move was they bring back Tony Todd's character of Bloodworth. and I'm glad that they brought him back. Again, I just like his screen presence. I know it's just a small cameo type role, but I do think he adds something a little extra that make the movies that he's in stand out and are a little bit better than the ones that he's not in. Following the memorial scene, we get our first kill scene with the character of Candace, and man, this scene is pretty fantastic. This has got everything that you want in a Final Destination kill scene. And she is at her gymnastics practice, and she is on the balance beam. And what makes a good Final Destination kill is a combination of a few things. You want a lot of good curveballs and fake outs. You don't want to know exactly where the kill is going to come from and what's going to cause it. And this one checks that box. You want some kind of a nice, prolonged, genuine suspense building. This one checks that box. And then you want a sudden, drastic, brutal, insane, gnarly kill. And this one definitely checks that box. This is a fantastic kill that checks all the boxes, and I absolutely love this thing. Following this scene, the next kill involves the character of Isaac, and the film pretty much sets up Isaac's character as somebody, as the audience, you can't stand, and so you're kind of rooting for him to get killed. He is a complete and total perv, and he also steals one of his dead co-workers' massage coupon and then takes it to go get a massage. And so we really just don't like this guy. And in fact, he reminds me of the Frankie Cheeks character from Final Destination 3, whose character I absolutely hated and think is maybe the worst character in this entire franchise. And so there's no reason whatsoever why I should actually get a little bit of enjoyment and entertainment out of Isaac's character, but I kind of do. And I think largely it's because seeing this whole scene of him getting like manhandled and smacked around by the masseuse is just pretty funny and entertaining. And so they are able to take his terrible character and bring some entertainment out of it based on his entire kill scene. You got the whole aspect with him getting massaged by this older Asian woman, and he expects it to be some young hot chick, and so he's really put off by that. And there's the whole aspect of him not understanding what she's saying, and she's, like I said, just manhandling him and smacking him around on the massage table, and it's just funny. And then you got the whole acupuncture scene and everything, and then, you know, he falls off the table. And so you got a nice kind of combination of humor, and then it quickly switches to, like, you know, gnarly brutality. And then this one too also has kind of a nice unexpected surprise where he finally gets his comeuppance as a fire breaks out in the massage room, and he's backed up against a wall, and a big old gigantic Buddha statue falls off the wall and destroys his face. So after this, you get a scene with the remaining characters. They're there where Isaac was killed, and they bump into Tony Todd again. And this is where Tony Todd gets to kind of lay down the rules. And one of the things that I think Final Destination 5 does pretty good is it kind of gives a little bit of a new type of rule to the whole death is after you type thing. And in this case, he says what they have to do to save themselves is they have to exchange a life for a life. And so it's like, if they can kill someone, it will save themselves. They'll get that person's years.
That's messed up.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting little choice, and it really comes into play later on in the movie. Then after this, we get the kill scene of the character of Olivia, and this is another really good kill, and it plays into the whole phobia of going into the eye doctor. And when she gets down into that table, and he's got basically her head put into this like vice thing, and she can't move, and then they put the little eye pry tool in her eye, right? And it reminds me of like a Clockwork Orange. It's just gnarly and uncomfortable. And I think there is a nice little attempt at humor here as she's hugging this bear for comfort, and and eventually it starts like strangling this bear. And it's just kind of a nice little comedic moment there. But then things just get absolutely horrifying as the laser for her laser eye surgery malfunctions and just starts destroying her face. And she eventually gets out of the chair and trips over the teddy bear's eye on the ground and busts through the window and falls however many stories down and smashes into the ground. And again, another really great little laugh out loud humor moment where her eye pops out of her socket and you see it rolling across the street, and then it gets run over by a car. I mean, what more could you want? It's ridiculous and absurd and hilarious and over the top and gruesome, and it's just fantastic. It's another really good kill. After this, we get a quick scene, and a scene that is in pretty much all of these movies, where the main character figures out that there is an order to the deaths, and Sam here figures out that they're dying in the order according to the premonition that he had at the beginning of the movie. Then after this, we get a couple quick kills as the character of Nathan is arguing with a coworker at the plant, and the guy falls down and he gets a hook right through the chin. Pretty nice little kill there. And then we get the kill of David Koechner's character in just this fantastic, unexpected, surprising moment.
It was what?
And that's another thing that Final Destination 5 does right. It's got kind of the more prolonged, suspenseful building kills, but then it's also got the quick kills that are just these completely random surprises. It's got them both, and I just love it for that. Following this, we get a scene with Sam at work, and he is a chef. And there's kind of a nice little scene here where he's walking back into the kitchen and like looking around and noticing all the little things that could potentially kill him. I kind of like that little scene. I thought it was just pretty cool. Then after his shift ends, his girlfriend Molly comes to the restaurant and he cooks a meal for her. And then his friend coworker Peter shows up. And this is where the new rules come into play. And Peter decides that it isn't fair that Molly gets to live, because she's the only one who survived the opening premonition scene on the bridge. And so Peter thinks it's unfair. He's lost his girlfriend Candace, so he's in a very dark and depressed place. And he's decided that he is going to kill Molly so that he can live. And I just like this rule change here. It's something different and new that we haven't seen before in turning one of the main characters into a killer themselves. And so we get kind of this cool little action fight scene in the back of the kitchen where Sam and Molly are trying to survive and fight off Peter. And so the scene kind of goes back and forth a little bit. The detective shows up and he ends up getting shot. And then it looks like Peter is about to kill Molly, but then Sam shows up right behind him and skewers him.
Tell Candace I love her.
Peter.
And again, I just like that there's a little bit of difference here. This is the first time in the entire franchise that a character has been killed by another character, by something or someone other than death itself. And so it just kind of provides a nice little element to it that's a little bit different. Then we get to the end, and throughout the entire movie, Sam has been contemplating taking this job as a chef in Paris. And there's been kind of this whole conflict between him and his girlfriend. Are they going to stay together or break up? And they decide to stay together, and she decides to come along and move to Paris with him. And then we get the scene in the airplane where the big twist is revealed, and we find out that Final Destination 5 is actually a prequel.
Oh my God.
And they have boarded Flight 180 from the very first Final Destination movie, and there we see Devon Sawa freaking out and getting off the plane. And so it's a pretty effective little twist there. It's definitely unexpected, and it adds sort of this, like, I think genuinely kind of dramatic and emotional moment, because you know right then and there that they are doomed, and you're just like, oh no. And yeah, it's pretty great. It's a nice little twist there, and I quite dug it. And so then you get the whole, plane crash sequence, and, they get sucked out of the plane, and the plane blows up and everything, and it's pretty great. And that's how Final Destination 5 ends. And look, this thing doesn't by any means reinvent the franchise. It doesn't, by and large, really do much different. There's maybe a couple little minor things here that it does different, but it's pretty much the same exact movie. And for, again, a fifth time doing more or less the same exact thing, this thing is way more entertaining and way better than it has any right to be. And I actually quite enjoyed myself with Final Destination 5. So, with that being said, to keep in line with my sort of 3-score tradition, if I'm trying to be objective, yeah, it's probably a 6, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. In terms of entertainment, man, I think I might go an 8. I'll go 7.5 to 8. It's right in there. And the kills, I think the kills in this are really, really quite good. And I'm gonna go a 9 for the kills. I really, really like the kills in Final Destination 5. So, those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below. I'm going to totally wrap up this entire thing. I'm going to do a ranking video ranking all 5 of these. So, be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming up next. But hit me up down below. Let me know what you think Final Destination 5. Love to hear from you. And that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like videos like this, you know what to do. Hit that button. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you next time on The Haunted Beard.